All right. Hey, Trent.
Hey, how you doing? I love
Uh,
the gear, first of all. I mean, that just needs to
Thank you.
be the
Special
first
limited
point.
edition. Yes,
Yes,
yes.
wood is good.
Wood is good. Natalie and I printed t-shirts. We still need to send you one. I have it set to the side. I'm just like, why is it so hard to go to the post office? I don't know.
It is.
But we have we made these just for us and our husbands, and they're pretty comfortable. But I'll say something about this t-shirt situation. I don't know what to do with all these shirts. So you know, first three people to email lumberslingers@gmail.com will send you a t-shirt. Send us your size. How about that? And we'll see who's actually listening. But they're pretty cool. They're actually I'm wearing it underneath. They say wood is good on the front, and they have the Lumberslingers logo like this on the back
Uh-huh.
in white. They're
Oh, that's
great for
awesome.
summer. They're very soft and comfortable. So
Nice.
yeah.
I love t-shirts. I will never turn on a t-shirt. I'm a huge advocate of t-shirts.
These are like those really soft jersey ones that are just like good
Mm-hmm.
for everything. So, and it's summertime, they're short sleeves. So, inquire within. I said three, so we'll give away three, and I will put Trent's in the mail this week. Okay.
Boom. I appreciate it. No,
Yeah. So, how are you doing, Trent?
I'm good. I'm good. This will kind of segue into a fun little story, but like as I've gotten older, I've found weird new things that I like. Like I've started to like nicer clothes, and that extends to shoes, which has been my new random thing, which I've started to really
Wow.
like because like that we have like some outlet malls by us, so you can get pretty good deals on shoes. Because I don't care if it's a current trend or anything like that, because it's usually like 6 to 9 months old. And like the Nike store and Cole Haan, I love Cole Haan, huge advocate of Cole Haan. Like love those shoes so much. Uh,
Yes.
um, and my newest infatuation has been cologne, and we talked briefly about the different types of cologne I think recently.
We did.
So a fun situation happened. So, like, I like to save money because that's just the way I was raised. Like, my dad, like, he tried to save money all the time. And so, like, I'm very price conscious. And so
Okay.
sometimes that doesn't work out that well. So I found this place where you
Like you
could
didn't
order
steal it,
cologne.
did you?
No. I mean,
Okay.
opposite almost happened to me basically, but like I found this website called
Oh
fragrance.net,
no.
and I did a
Oh
bunch of
god.
research on it, and all the stuff like that because I so much I could do from like Reddit to like, other stuff like that, and like I felt pretty darn confident after my days of research that this place was okay. So I ordered some cologne off of it, and there was that the fancy stuff we spoke about, like that's supposed to last really long. So I was super excited. So I got it, and I was trying some of it out, and like I put on, and I like walked by my wife's like, I cannot smell you at all, and the problem was I could smell myself. Like it was
Oh,
like giving
okay.
me a headache, and she's like, literally, I can't smell you at all, and so. I ended up getting another bottle of cologne from an actual legit place, that I know. And then I wore that the other day, and she's like, I can smell you. And so I bring this over to say that I bought bootleg cologne, and I felt really dumb. And, and I'm it's taken up way too much of my headspace recently that I did that. And like I was able to get it returned and to be able to get my money back, which I'm happy about because like I went all Karen on them and like complained and then like put all these like different things out there. So they're gonna refund me, but I feel
That's
really
good.
dumb because I bought bootleg cologne. And
Well,
yeah.
it happens to all of us. It happens to all of us. We want the nice thing and we don't want to pay the price for it. You know what I
Yeah.
always say? You just get what you pay for. It never fails. You
Yep.
get what you pay
Uh-huh.
for. And if you're trying to, you know, cut a corner on something, usually the corner is cut on you on the way back. So,
Bingo.
things like
100%.
cologne or shoes or the thing when you're going to use it every single day, it's like just
Mm-hmm.
spend the money on it and do it right,
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, at least if you get a deal and it's from the place, like, like the store, even if it's an outlet, that's one thing. But like when you're trying to cut
Yeah.
corners, especially online, even
Right.
if you do due diligence, you don't know. Like you don't
You
know
never
for
know.
sure. So, I mean,
Yeah, I even hear on like Amazon, my hairdresser was telling me that, there's a lot of fake even hair products if you're
mm,
looking for like the Kevin Murphy or the whatever brand, better brand that you use. If you get it on Amazon, there's a likelihood that it's not
mhm.
real and
Yep.
it's fake. So, you know, just make sure that you are doing your research, and if it's too good to be true on the price, it probably is.
So the PSA is, I think for today is you get what you pay for. And honestly, if you want something cheap, you can usually get it. It's just a matter of being patient and waiting. Because like if you try to buy
Yes.
winter stuff at the end of winter, like the North Face place went to, everything in the store
Yep.
was 50% off. Literally, like
Yes.
the $250 jackets were $125. Like I already have
Yeah.
stuff like that. But I mean, if you're patient and you're thinking ahead, and especially when you're older, hopefully your size isn't changing that. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully they're not changing that much. I might have been a little bit there because I mean, my
There's
birthday
also
cake
like,
and stuff.
I mean, there's really great outlets, but there's also really great secondhand options if you're into the more bougie designer things. You could go to Poshmark, you could go, there's local consignment stores that, they buy high quality items and inspect them and verify them for their, authenticity. But and it's good for the environment too, because you're killing kind of two birds with one stone. So I think
Yep.
that there's options to like get something at a better price and keep the value of it.
Yep.
But yeah. So I was going to tell you my fun story before we get started in the news was that I haven't had a nanny this week, which I mentioned to you before we got on the call. So it's been a little difficult. And yesterday, turns out, was take your kid to work day, and national take your son or daughter to work day.
Wait.
And on Thursdays, we usually like to have our sales team come into the office and we order lunch in, we have coffee. And so I was like, what a perfect day for this to fall on Thursday. So ended up after nap number 1, we went downtown and had lunch with the group. So I took Frankie to work. I was going to show a picture.
Oh my gosh.
She loved it. She crawled around on the floor. And then actually I had another colleague of mine. He had a baby 1 month exactly after Frankie, and he was able to bring, just randomly, his wife happened to be really close by. So she came into the office and they got to meet. And his name is Fletcher, and it was really cute. So Fletcher and Frankie got to meet, crawl around on the floor. And that was fun. That was kind of my highlight of the week. And silver lining of no help this week is that I just got to, spend a lot of time with Frankie, and it was a lot of fun. So I feel very fortunate for that.
I love those times. They're so fun. I'm sure that everyone in the office was just enamored by.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We had a good time.
They're like, no
It's
one's
so
getting
funny.
anything done.
Do you find when people have babies, like I just kind of like notice like everybody just stares at the baby like the whole time. We're all just like staring at the baby. I'm like, wow. From the outside looking in, this probably looks like we're all crazy, but we had a good time. So, well, shall we dive into the wonderful world of lumber?
Oh, absolutely. It was a less eventful week on the the personnel changes and merger acquisition stuff. It was much more like econ focused, and by that I mean like we started seeing some results come out for some of the big companies, and then we're going to start to get them more. And a lot of times first quarter ones, like I don't go too crazy on them, but I think that with everything going on, they become more relevant because it kind of can give a little bit of an insight or a lot of insight into at least what they're telling people about how they're feeling about now, and also the future of this year, short term and long term. And I mean, like the one that I thought was the most telling was West Fraser's, because they really like spoke in depth about what was going on, about things they've already made to kind of adjust for some of these situations. And like, I mean, they spoke head on about the tariffs and things like that, about how that's impacting stuff and their outlooks. And it was really interesting, I thought, to hear their perspective. And it's obviously, there was a lot of thought that always gets put in these, and I think especially now, because I mean, it's really, there can be a lot of I don't want to say swaying on it, but I mean, it can help frame people's opinions in different ways depending on what a large company like that says. So I thought it was a pretty cool thing to read through just to see. And I mean, I thought that they took a very good, almost like middle ground nuance. Like they didn't go like Chicken Little, and they weren't like things are the greatest. So it was kind of interesting how they were able to tell what's happening and, address situations that have happened, and kind of still speak to the positives and negatives that they see, even things that were negative. If you read it in totality, it didn't come off as being overtly negative, in my opinion.
Right.
Which you easily could have. I mean, I wouldn't fault someone, so to speak, but I think it kind of goes back to what we've spoken about of not having that overly negative viewpoint of everything because that doesn't really help anyone. I think that that's kind
Right.
of coming through in these, initial results that we're starting to see where that are public companies are taking a similar stance right now.
Well, this is interesting. The president, Sean McLaren of West Fraser,
Hmm.
said in many respects, the first quarter of 2025 was a continuation of more balanced supply and demand fundamentals we have experienced in recent quarters. While still operating below mid cycle economics, our lumber segment posted its best quarter in more than 2 years, supported by, in part, the impact of our mill curtailments and closures, as well as the benefits we have realized with our portfolio optimization strategy that shifts a greater proportion of production to our lower cost mills.
Hmm.
Wow. Yeah, so that is a little bit more positive. The other thing is are we I don't want to be now I don't want to be devil's advocate here, but I'm going to be is okay, we have Q1, but a lot of the stuff really happened in March. So are we going to see more adjustments
Yep.
In Q2? We'll see. But I mean, when we're putting out positivity and optimism, I think that only helps, moving forward in the next quarter, hopefully build confidence of, our industry and the consumer.
Hmm. And I mean, they have a whole section about tariffs in here where they didn't. It was kind of just a summary of what happened. Honestly, they were talking about what happened on March 1st, what happened between the 4th and 6th of March, and then that they temporarily paused anything until the 2nd and the 2nd. So I mean, they kind of break all that down, but they don't really go into the effect of that because they don't really know yet. I think long term, to your point. But I mean, it's so I mean, you could literally read these results and get a pretty good idea of what's happened with a lot of stuff, honestly,
Hmm.
in there. And I mean, it's just they talk about like the housing starts in the U.S. and things of that nature. So I mean, it's a really interesting breakdown. And I mean, I was surprised when they were talking about the ranges, so like the different ranges of their shipment targets, and they were saying like for SPF shipments, we are now targeting 2.7 to 2.9 billion board feet. Previously, was 2.7 to 3 billion board feet. And SYP 2.5 to 2.7 billion. Previously, 2.5 to 2.8. So I mean,
So they're
obviously, you're taking that out.
adjusting.
They're adjusting, but it's not. It's interesting. The low end didn't adjust, just the top end, and it kind of they
Hmm.
just constrained it a little bit more,
Hmm.
But like you didn't. I think it's at least in my viewpoint. You could tell me if I'm wrong on this. It's a positive that they didn't lower the bottom, of the range. It's just the top they took down a little bit, which I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like that could theoretically happen any year if you get a better idea what's going to happen. I mean, I think that if they would have gone for like say from 2.7 to like 2.5 or then you're like, oh, that's a big, So I mean, I think
Yeah.
that it was interesting to me that
It
that
is
was.
interesting that they adjusted that way and but more precisely, I guess. And maybe they have a better
Exactly.
idea now than they did.
Hmm. So I mean, I think that to your point though, these are an interesting starting point to see, and I think that as we go on and we see what kind of reactions people have to whatever ends up happening in the coming quarter, like these second quarter kind of mid-year ones are going to be they're going to be crazy. I mean, I think that like, and I don't mean that like in a bad way. I mean, it's going to be crazy because so much has happened that they can actually
Yeah.
have had time to digest, and then more things will happen, and then we'll see what has happened, and the as things really start to ramp up, at the beginning of the second quarter through the second quarter. So I mean, I think that those are going to be. It's going to be a crazy second quarter, I guess. I mean, what I
Yeah.
mean? It could be crazy
Yeah.
good,
I
could
mean,
be
it'll be
crazy bad,
very
could be
telling.
crazy. It could be crazy by the fact that nothing major happens too. I mean, I think that
Yeah.
whatever happens, it's going to be like, wow, I didn't see that coming because I don't think that anyone can really get their pulse on what's happening because things are changing so much day by day, big, small, and
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting just to see how businesses react and then how consumers react as well. Like, I mean, are people going to start rushing to try to do more things because they're afraid of stuff? Are people going to be afraid and do the opposite and hoard? I mean, there's so many
Right.
different ways things can go that I mean, like, I personally as a consumer have had the same thing. I'm like, well, do I do X, Y, Z now in case something happens and it gets more expensive? It's like, or do I say, So I mean, I think that a lot of people are going through similar things, and it's going to be interesting to see how people react as consumers as well as how businesses react, and then what ends up ultimately happening. Because I mean, I think by the end of the second quarter, we should have answers to some degree. I mean, if not, then you're just going to get in this. Now, what's going to happen? Are we never going to have an answer? And that's I feel like
Right.
then it's like maybe the answer is there is no answer, which is even weirder. So
Seems to be the trend.
yeah, and
You
I
just
mean,
can never predict,
Yeah. So I
But
mean, it's just, I think that another interesting way that we always are looking at is, like mortgage rates, mortgage applications. And I mean, they did have the monthly new residential sales for March 2025 came out by the US Census Bureau. And it was interesting because it said that they were seasonally adjusted rate of 724,000, and this is 7.4% above February 2025, and it is 6% above March of 2024. So, I mean,
okay.
you're seeing a pretty big increase there, but that, if you remember, coincides with when things I think were a little bit, when we saw the rates starting to kind of go down, it's starting to go down a little bit, if I remember correctly. And then, I mean, I feel like that also, we had, for at least around here, I want to say pretty decent weather across the board in March all over. So, I mean, I think that, I don't know how it's going to play into things, but I mean, when you then, on the other end, look at the current data that's happening now with like the mortgage applications, we've seen this thing swinging so much. The
Mm-hmm.
what the Mortgage Bankers Association put out, and they decreased by 12.7% from 1 week earlier, and that's for the week ending of April 18th. So I mean, it's just, we're seeing these huge ups and downs with this, which I don't
Right.
recall happening as much, at least as we've spoken about it for a while. I mean, I'm sure it happened here and there, but I mean, it seems like we've had like a handful of these weeks where there's been like double digit increases up and down, and which is just,
Yeah. It is
it's
definitely
kind of,
swinging. I think the market reacts and then
yeah.
you see it like 2 weeks later, like, okay, and now this week we're gonna have this week's news, and then in 2 weeks we'll see the impact of that. And so it is interesting on that on the new residential sales information that came out that they said that the median price of new houses sold in March 2025 was $400,003, 403,600, and that is below February 2025 price of $411,000. And then if you look at March 2024,
Mhm.
it's 522,000. So it seems to me like maybe houses are still moving, but the prices are dropping a little bit, or I'm sure that there's concessions, happening, especially with the interest rates inside of these sales. But I am noticing, I know I told you we are kind of looking locally at homes right now, and I've got my eye on the market here in Portland, Oregon. And I'm noticing houses are staying on the market for a very long time, over 100 days. And then I'm noticing significant price decreases. So
Mhm.
this week alone, a couple of the houses I'm following, $75,000, $100,000. They're making these huge cuts to pricing. I think the sellers want to get out of these houses. They don't want to stay on the
Mhm.
market longer than they have to. And they're also competing with other houses in their neighborhood. I mean, right now is the time of year to sell your house. So there's a lot more
Mhm.
homes up for sale, a lot more competition. So it's interesting to see that big of pricing drops, which,
Yep.
at the same time, I look at what these people bought their houses for, and I'm like, it's insane to think that you're you're gonna you're gonna double the amount of what your house is worth, and you just bought it like four
Mhm.
years ago. Like that's insane. But
Mhm.
I mean, that's kind of what the market did. So
Yep.
just interesting to watch overall what's
No.
happening with that. But if you look at the supply, you know, I think that chart showed that it was over a million new houses for sale in March of 2020, and now we're sitting at
Mhm.
about half of that,
Yep.
500,000. So interesting that inventory is still low, lower than it
Mhm.
was at least. But
But
also in
and to
2020 we had really low interest rates. So
exactly too, and so I mean, I'm interested because I've been doing the same thing. We have a house that just went for sale down the street, and then another one on the other side that I just noticed. And like these houses before when they were on the market, like literally, like the sign would be up, and like a day later they'd be gone. Like
yeah, yeah,
here on me. Now, with that being said, I went to the park with my daughter yesterday. On the way back, we did see a young couple looking at one of the houses. Because like we're walking forward and forward, and they were out there kind of looking at it and whatnot.
yeah.
So
Like, is that gonna be my neighbor?
yeah, so I'm interested. They're the one that's not on my actual block, so I'm more interested in the one that's down the block because those are the ones I really want. I hope that they're good neighbors too.
Yeah,
But I to your point, I think that it's anecdotal, but it also is the reality of what's happening around you, which impacts the individual directly. I mean, if you start seeing a lot of a lot slower compared to a lot of turnover, I mean, it's just it is relevant to you. And I mean, I mean, your home prices. I mean, our home price has gone up by so much, it's insane. Like it's so much. It's not even funny.
yeah.
We're bordering on we're close to having our house literally double since we bought it, and it's not
Yeah.
a big house either. So I mean, to have that happen, it's insane. It really is. And so it's like I was put in a precarious position where I saw somebody that was talking about the mortgage rates,
What are the mortgage
on
rates this week?
Twitter. So they went down a touch by just like a little. So it was 6.83 last week, and it's 6.81 this week.
Oh,
So
okay.
they're still, I mean, they're still not low. I mean, when you're looking at what they were in September, when they were hovering close to 5, I mean, and I think that sometimes it can get lost when you're like, well, it's only 8%. It's like, but that's not, because when you look at what that is on the long term, like compared to like someone who locked in at like 3% compared to 6%, you're like, it's only 3%. It's like, that's not the reality, because when you look at how much more that is on the loan and the life of it, it's insane how big of a difference it is.
100%.
And when you start to really, when you realize that as a person who's purchasing or potentially purchasing it, or someone who's already has a house, it helps. I think it changes your mindset. Someone that's a first time home buyer may not be as prone to really put a lot of thought into that concept because they don't necessarily know as much. Like, hey, look, it's down here. But like, if you're somewhere sitting to me where I locked in a 2.9% rate, like thinking about taking on a rate at that much in a house that's more
Yeah.
expensive, it's just insane.
That's
And I mean, it's just
crippling. Yeah.
so. I think that there's a lot of it's a very interesting dynamic across the board when you're looking at first time compared to people that are going to be getting like a bigger second house or something like that. And I mean, I think they're very different outlooks is my point.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out and see who's buying what and like how much it goes, because this is where we're starting to see, like you said, all the houses being listed. So I'm really interested to see if we see a big push in the coming month, to 2 months, and if so, what does that mean for
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. So mortgage rates are 6.81
Yep.
and average home sale price is $403,000. And mortgage applications have decreased 12.7% from 1 week earlier. So there's your quick rundown on what's going on in the housing market. Is there anything else we should note?
Just one final thing, for the lumber prices for the week ending April 18th.
Maybe we should talk about lumber.
Yeah, it was interesting, which goes into obviously all this, which is they were down 5% or $29 from the week before when it was $542. So they're down to $513, and then 1 month ago they were at $567. So it's down about 10% from there. So I mean,
I find that interesting. I said a few weeks ago, watch it, it's gonna keep going up, and I'm wrong. So don't ever listen to me. Because I don't know, but yeah, I did notice that and I think just the market is, people are just really trepidatious. They're, nobody's taking a big position. Just from my own conversations with my customers and my vendors this last week, it's been, more of the piecemeal kind of orders that are happening, only buying what I need. I'm not taking a position on inventory. I'm not stocking up on anything, or my customers aren't. So that's kind of, the conversations I've been having have been, nobody's selling tons of truckloads. It's like, okay, yeah, I'll fill this order that I know is sold, and we'll see about the rest. I did have a customer I talked to yesterday. I love this guy. He's like, Chelsea, he's like, I called my customer 4 p.m., 5 p.m. He didn't pick up. Called the next morning, 7 a.m., 8 a.m. He's like, oh God. He's like, I just sat there and thought, I'm not this kind of guy. I'm not gonna, but I called him at 9 and I got the order and I got a truckload. So I think the takeaway is the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And I also had another salesperson who I look up to as a mentor tell me that he said 80% of his sales are from outbound calls and following up. So and that 20% might be coming to him, might be more falling in his lap, but really where he's making the money is 80% of it is picking the phone up, making the call, following up. Because in this kind of market, you have to be the one that is annoying and squeaky to get the order. Or, I mean, why should somebody give it to you if you're not? So, and maybe they just so happen to be thinking about it when you call. So I guess that's, the advice from my people in my circle who have far more wisdom than me is just to keep showing up, to keep being the one on the horn so that you can make that opportunity happen when it comes.
Exactly.
So
That's good advice. That's advice we
yeah.
can take, right?
That's good advice. Advice that we should take. Yes. So, well, awesome, Trent. It was great. I guess we didn't mention, but Natalie is in Viva La Mexico this week. She's having a margarita for us right now, probably on the beach. So we miss seeing her, but she'll be here next week. And yeah, thanks for joining me today, Trent. Really appreciate it. Great news update.
Nope. Good chat with you, and I can't wait to find out who gets those shirts.
Oh yeah. Inquire today.